All right, welcome to episode 5 of Southern Indiana Whitetail Talk with Van Meterson Lures. Man, we got a great show lined up tonight. We're going to do some question and answers tonight with Jason, Darren, and Cody. This is going to be a question and answer segment regarding how to hunt whitetails, whitetail strategies, all that type of stuff. So we're not just going to give a little disclaimer that as far as this show goes, we're not really too concerned about what kind of broadhead you're using and that type of stuff. So sorry, my mic stand was falling over. We're not too worried about all the technical aspects of hunting and camo and broadheads and all that stuff. We're going to dive deep into whitetail strategies, how to use scents, when to use scents. Right, Jason? I mean, that's kind of the path we want to go down.
Right.
I know there's a lot of questions, from myself as far as, Cody and I were just sitting here talking before the show, but like river bottoms compared to, if you hunt the hills, like what kind of strategies and stuff. I'm probably going to take a different approach than what Cody's going to take, right? I mean, that's just part of the nature. So let's just get into it. If you got any questions, please comment them, because that's what's going to keep this show rolling tonight is questions. I got the questions up. They'll be up here on the screen for us. So I will skim through them, and we'll start going that route. First off, Cody, congratulations on slickhead harvest. I did see that on Facebook, so congratulations there. Your meat got a little bit of meat in the freezer now, right? Okay.
Tastes good going down, doesn't it?
Oh yeah,
it's great.
So what do you want to start off tonight with, Jason? Just kind of like a week update. Like what's going on with
I want
you?
Cody to turn them bottles around, get a little advertisement going.
There you go. Turn him around. That's nothing that Cody will be drinking tonight. Me and Jason have water. I don't think Cody's going to be
Exactly.
hitting the
Well, this is how I kill them big bucks.
Is it? You drink it? Yeah.
That's
Seeps
right.
out your pores. There you go.
Right.
Now I get a lot of text messages. I get a lot of emails, phone calls, and I get a lot of people wanting, just some me to answer questions. And I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to have a podcast with you three guys to help with questions. And if people can just question away, and hopefully we can give a good answer and an educated answer, and anything to do with whitetails, the habitat, hunting, where we're at in the season, what's next, how to use some of the products. Because I like talking to these guys because they use my products different than a way that I would, and them two are way more successful than I am. So I'm definitely doing something wrong.
Right.
About that.
But anyhow, yeah, I would gonna just have you go down through there, Matt, and see if you see any questions.
I'll start off by asking a question. Let's just get the ball rolling. I know right now, because I always watch your Facebook page and then the 7 to 10 day weather forecast, and that type of stuff. If I'm hunting a smaller parcel, say, let's just go to like a 70 to 90 acre parcel, right? And I've got 4 or 5 stand locations that I typically hunt. What weather patterns should I watch the most? If I'm going to make the most out of my time, and I don't want to just go in there 5-6 days a week and just blow that spot out, what kind of weather patterns should I be looking for? If I'm going to pick 2 days a week to hunt out of this 7-day weather pattern, what should I look for?
I told them guys I was going to keep my mouth shut, but I guess I'll start off. The way I like to do it is, like, I made a post this morning. I'm looking at that next heat up, and latter next week it's going to get in, or mid next week it's going to get in the 70s, upper 70s, lower 70s. At night it's going to be 50s and 60s. I'm looking for that drastic change, whether it be a weather disturbance of bad weather, high winds, rain. When that happens, they'll lose a feeding or two. And once things clear out, they're going to be on their feet no matter what time of day it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking also into that weather forecast next week where it's going to be in the 70s. Well, Southern Indiana, it's just how it is. It's a 5, 7, 10 day pattern. After this next warm up, I believe we're either going to get a lot of rain or it's going to drastically drop back into the temperatures we're experiencing right now. That's when I'm going to try to make my move, is on this next drastic change. So if I had an opportunity to hunt, I would definitely hunt after the drastic change rather than before. A lot of guys like hunting before the front. I do too, but I like after the fact, and that is because they have lost feeding opportunities. Deer do not feed when it's high winds and heavy rain. and they don't move very much when it's warmer temperatures.
So look for that disturbance and go afterwards, right?
That's me. Them guys may be different.
Do you guys have any input on it? Anything
That's
different?
Same way.
Yep.
I over the years, as a matter of fact, I've watched multiple bucks, especially had a buck a few years back that was 7.5 years old. The deer was super smart. And once I figured him out, it was game on. I had every opportunity to kill this deer. And I actually screwed it up at like 6 yards. It was a bad deal. But after I harvested a buck that fall, I told a friend of mine, I gave him the go ahead to kill this deer. And we was trying to get back on him again because things changed a little bit. And I told him, I said, the next major weather front that changes, go in and kill that deer. He's gonna be on his feet. And I think it was about mid-November. It was somewhat warm that year, and we had a snow come through. And sure enough, after that snow come through, there was that deer right in front of the camera, right in front of the stand he was supposed to be in, but he never made it.
Really?
Never made it. The deer was, he was on his feet because he'd lost that time to get out and feed and get up and do things. So once that front passed through, that deer was doing everything like normal. And
Right.
I've seen that multiple times. As a matter of fact, just the Saturday when I shot that doe, it'd been raining all day down there on me. And I was sitting in the stand. I was getting wet. It wasn't a bad rain, but it was a disturbance. And,
Right.
As soon as that rain cleared up, every deer in the county seemed like to be
Like a light switch.
Oh yeah, it was unreal. So yeah, I'm a big believer in weather changes. You got a dry spell. I can go back just opening part of bow season. Had a really good friend of mine. We had that first rain come through, October 3rd?
Yep.
Something like that. He killed a 5.5-year-old stud, 170-inch deer, just because that rain.
Yes.
He went in and hunted and killed that deer. So yeah, I'm a firm believer in big weather changes. Hunt either before, hunt after. I like hunting after. Sometimes you don't get the chance to, so hunt pretty close to as many
That
as you
disturbance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned barometric pressure last year. I'm not a meteorologist, but correct me if I'm wrong. Before a weather disturbance, the barometric pressure usually drops, gets lower.
Mhm.
After that initial storm that comes through, your pressure is gonna rise. So anything over 30, barometric pressure over 30, I'll always like to try to stay in the woods or be in the woods. I keep my eye on that constantly. If it's below 30, I don't like to get in the woods because normally if it's below 30, it's a dry spell.
Mhm.
And, it takes those weather patterns to get the deer up because they know before we do.
Oh,
what it's
yeah.
gonna do.
Well, it's just like I have several people every year. They'll text me on the side or message me, and they'll say, "Hey, what hunt app are you going by?" And I'm not. Just like Darren's there. Once you've understood, and Cody yourself, you understand how deer move and their habitat. These guys that have these, I guess they're hunt apps. I don't know what they are, but they're just doing what I'm doing or what they're doing. You read the weather, and the deer will do the same thing every time.
You get the same information off 5 o'clock news as you can.
And then I look at that, and I look at that weather. I look at what's going to happen, and that's going to tell me what the deer are going to do.
Right.
So my hunt app is usually WDRB News
WDRB.
or Wave 3.
Same here.
All right. So Mason's got a question. I have taken the strategy this year of quality over quantity hunts. I have historically trail cam data over the last 2 years. The bucks I'm hunting are showing up late October and early November. A new approach for me. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Even if the weather is good, can you burn out deer this early in the year?
Yes. Absolutely, you can.
Tell them. Oh, yeah.
So I think, and it goes back to the kind of the question that I asked at the very beginning and parcel size and stuff like that. If you have historical data that shows that your bucks are coming in late October, early November, this is just my 2 cents opinion here. That's why now I wait. Like, I know we're gung ho. October 1st is rolled around, but if you're wanting to harvest quality mature deer, and you have the historical data that shows that they're coming in at a certain time frame, I'll hang out with my family for a couple more weeks and, whatever. And then when I know whenever that Halloween, like we've talked about before on here, when that Halloween time frame comes around and that big buck or whatever is going to be moving more than what he normally does, and that's what your historical data shows. Me personally, I'd
wait it out.
I'd wait it out.
Great.
I know it's hard. I know it's hard. I know because we're hunters, right? And we want to be in the woods. We want to be in the woods. But even the mature deer, like if you hunt 5 or 6 times, you think, oh, it's not going to hurt nothing. I'm going to go 5 or 6 times. That's 5 or 6 times that you gave him historical data on where you're at, what you're doing,
and what you smell like.
Yeah, and what you smell like. So,
and if it's just killing you, that you've got to get in the woods, because like you said, we've all been there, Mason. If you've got another parcel that you're able to hunt,
go hunt.
Go hunt it.
Go hunt that one.
Go hunt.
Because if it's mature bucks, a lot of times you only get one shot.
It is, and you hear a lot of people say, "Well, you can't kill them sitting at home." Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Because if you go when it's right, Mason, if you go whenever you go off at that data that you've collected, that tells you when the window is. Go then.
Right.
You gotta give your parcel time to develop. That's like right now. I'm waiting on 2 certain deer, and I've got 12 cameras on a 400-acre parcel. I got the place covered. They are not there yet.
Right.
Now, in days gone by, years ago, without cameras, I'd have been hunting, thinking where they're at, So
Right.
I've got all this data like you're talking about, Mason. So use it to your advantage.
Stay
home till it happens.
I do want to say this too, that there are 2 sides to this, right? There's if you have certain bucks that you're going after, like Mason is talking about, that is the strategy that I would take. Now, the other side of that is if you're just hunting to hunt and you're just wanting to harvest something to put meat in the freezer, then by all means, I'd start October 1st and I wouldn't care. I would hunt every single day. If you're just wanting to harvest whitetail and put venison in the freezer, then that's 2 different aspects that we're looking at.
If you're trophy hunting, it's different.
Yes, because there's a lot of stuff that I see on TV that some of you take with a grain of salt, some of it, you learn from. And one thing that I see a lot is these guys that are going in and harvesting mature deer. Like I watched a YouTube video last night, and it's the same way. They take the intel that their cameras are giving them, and they might hunt one day a year because they know that that's the day that he's going to be in there or what his pattern is. And that's just what's crazy. If you're a mature buck white or, trophy hunting, then there are some, you might hunt 2 days a year and tag out. But
and
like I said, it's 2 different approaches in what you're hunting.
And that's good info. I've got 4 or 5 different places that I hunt, and I've got one in particular that I normally harvest pretty good deer off of. I have for a long time. And that parcel that I'm talking about, I'm just dying to get in there. I can't stand it anymore. But I know that I can't get in there until the time's right. That's why I've got a tactic cam in there to tell me, show me my intel and what all I've got coming in there and everything. But just like I said, if you've got another parcel that you can hunt, or depending on how the size of this land that you're hunting, the acreage, maybe go to another side if you can, and try to hunt something over there,
Read James is there. James Parsley. Do you see that there, Matt?
Okay. Yeah. We'll do this one. We'll go back up to the few of the others.
Okay.
No. I'm saying
okay.
Cause I got them all right here. So,
okay.
James, got a woods, me and a buddy hunt. We've seen a decline in mature deer and recently seen almost all does on cams. I'm thinking too many does and may need to thin them out. I have bought some of the lures you sell, but I'm afraid it will keep the bucks that are there away. Thoughts?
Well, I don't think the lures are ever going to keep the bucks there away. So just scratch that. And that's not a sales gimmick. But the reason you're not seeing mature deer is because you have a doe factory, apparently. And it'll be a good rut parcel come first week or second week of November. So, if you got somewhere else you want to hunt mature deer at early, I would go find that area, thinning does out. Something like that's going to take a long time to really, you could be 5-year window of developing that into a buck parcel rather than a doe factory.
Especially depending on how many does you have. It
So
could be-
I wouldn't, harvest does, but if you're looking for mature deer early, I would go find a parcel that is a buck parcel, and then, but definitely come the rut, they're going to be there because the does are there. But that could be November 15th, 18th, 14th, 16th,
Yeah.
17th. But I don't think you're going to have to worry about our lure scaring deer away. So
One thing I'll point out to that, Jamie, is I think I would keep an eye on it over, I wouldn't keep from hunting your mature deer, because if you got does like that, like Jason said, it's obviously going to be a rut parcel. They're going to show up eventually at some point in time.
Mhm.
But I would keep an eye over several years from here on out and harvest some deers off that property and see how the bucks, they react to it. Right. So if you're harvesting 2 or 3 does a year off that property over the next couple of years, use it as a learning tool to see how your bucks are reacting to that. I mean, if you say over the next 5 years, if you shoot 7 or 8 does off of it, okay, well now are my mature bucks coming back more often? I would use it as a learning tool, in my opinion. Just keep hunting, and then, like Jason said, if you're wanting to make it a buck parcel, just kind of keep an eye on it over the years.
Good info.
If it's going to take 5 or 6 years, like Jason's saying, which it's going to, I would have fun with it. I mean, I would learn. I would, shoot my does, still hunt my
Absolutely.
bucks,
Yeah.
kind of see how the whole herd reacts to it. And the cool part about that, I think it'd be cool just to see the whole picture come together, is like the work that you put in, creates this buck parcel. You know what I'm saying? So that's just my 2 cents.
Just adds to the hunt.
Adds
Makes it
to the
that much
hunt.
more
Adds to
fun.
the story. I do want to. Zach Julie lost my boy sending a big 10 point with 4 does. The does come in the field, but he stayed in the woods and went off by himself. Washington County. Here's another thing too, Jason, I want to bring up. I think it's a good question too. Is I think this time of the year also too, we kind of go through like a because I've seen a lot of posts on Facebook about it, but a false rut. Like if does might come into like a quick estrus this time of year, is that something that's?
I think it's more of a testosterone spike in
Is that
cold,
what it
wet,
is?
and in cool temperatures.
Right.
And it develops the behavior that makes it look like a rut, I guess.
Right.
But it's all in photo period with them does. They're going to come in with photo period. That is the lack of daylight, and it happens the same time every year.
Yep.
So,
Okay. Good intel.
Cody, you're awful quiet over there. Help us out.
Yeah, I'm just listening to that topic, Jason. That's a really good one. A lot of people ask, is the rut the same time every year? And I always say, yeah, it is. A doe's estrus cycle, she'll come into estrus the same time every single year. It's not she's going to come in 2 weeks earlier, or maybe 2 weeks later. It's the same time about every year.
Mhm.
And everybody, like you said, talks about, I seen a small buck chasing a doe, and you get those people on Facebook saying, "Oh, the rut's on, the rut's in full
Right.
swing." No, that's not it. It's just
It's a buck
young-
being a buck.
it's just a young buck, just like a teenager wanting to
Exactly.
do
And
this
now,
thing. It's
and
the
now,
same.
if you say you have this mama doe and she gave birth to 1 fawn, and then the next season she has twins for the first time, that's going to set her cycle back about 4, 5, 3 days. And the reason that does that is because her body is readjusting, because she's now in that uterus feeding 2, and everything's just double. But once she starts having twins, she'll probably always have twins.
Right.
And so that's the only time a female will adjust, is after having twins. That's because it's pulling all the minerals and all the energy off of her. Then that next year it'll reset. But if you've got a doe that gives the same birth, the same amount of deer every year, it's going to be right on the money.
It's science. You know what I'm saying? Like it's science.
So
A lot of people don't think about that, what you just said. That's, and I can't say that I have too often, but that is great information.
well, you have these you have these deer, it's just like I used to breed the mountain cur squirrel dogs, and I had a female that was so high strung, and it's just like a female athlete. They will not go on their monthly period because of their protein. I mean, everything is just They work out, they run, and they're exhausted, and their body does not have the nutrients it needs to make all that cycle every month. And it's just like a doe. If she's stressed in whatever way, health wise, say she got hit by a car, and then her body's trying to heal all summer long, that's going to mess her cycle up.
Right.
So there's a lot of variables in it, but yes, the rut's same time every year. So
Dustin Garlow said, he asked, what is your strategy on hunting days with variable winds? That's a good question. I think a lot of that depends on your location too.
Your setup, location.
Yeah. I mean, if you're in a valley, whatever,
All has
I mean,
to do with that, really, if you think about it.
I would watch it very, very closely. And if it's variable, then depending on how your setup is, I wouldn't chance it. I mean, if you've got multiple sets on your property, I would hunt a set that 100% that which way the wind's going to be blowing. But
yes, and there are a lot of places where you cannot hunt because of the changing of wind directions, whether you're in a ravine or wherever it might be. I know there are 2 or 3 places that I learned a hard lesson. It's just not huntable because you never know which way the wind is going to blow off of this hillside or if it's going to come in behind me. But yeah, that's a good question too.
Katie's got a good point. Oh, go ahead. You got something, Cody?
I'm not trying to sell anything, but a few years ago, actually back in 21, when I harvested that buck, that 169, it was in a location that had variable winds. I hunted a big ridge top, and I was actually on the phone on the way in here with a good friend of mine, and we were talking about how the wind shifted and all that. And I actually bought an Ozonics. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to see what this was all about, see if it really worked. And I'm a firm believer in it that the morning that I killed the buck that I did, if I wouldn't have been using Ozonics, I'd have been blown out of there because the wind was blowing every which direction, and I kept that showering over top of me the whole time. And I was watching my wind. I had a big mature doe and 3 different bucks come in, and they all went straight downwind, and I was watching everything. I'd blow my little wind puffer every so often. I'd watch it, and everything was going straight to the nose of that doe. Everything. She never, ever, ever busted me. And about 10 minutes later, I killed that big buck.
Really?
If she would have blew, she'd have took everything out of them woods, and I would have never killed that deer. And like I said, I'm not trying to sell anything, but that was my only opportunity to get in because I knew that's where the deer lived. I had to get into the spot to kill him. And every time I'd go in there, I would get blown out every time because the wind, like I said, I was telling a buddy of mine, I would usually hunt this on a north wind, and I could have a north wind. Well, when I get to that stand, it'd be blown out of the south.
Right.
And so I was like, I can't hunt it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. I bought it and I used it. And I tell you what, Saturday night, I did the same thing.
Good thing for Ozonics.
Good thing for Ozonics.
I tell you what, it really, like I said, I'm not trying to sell anything, but
Right.
it did help me for those situations. And I don't use it all the time. I really don't. I always pay attention to my winds, but I do have a spot that really kind of limits me. And
Right.
I know
It's good to have that tool.
Oh,
use.
yeah,
It is.
definitely.
I don't have it.
It was a little.
I'm old school. I don't have it.
Like I said, that was the first time, and it sold me because I killed that buck, and I was really, really a firm believer. But it's not something I take with me every time because it's about like carrying a suitcase.
Oh yeah.
So
I've heard they're kind of bulky.
Daryl
Yeah.
Lowe, I'll just not to interrupt you guys, but and you go back, Matt, if you see some that I missed, but it's just a quick one. Daryl Lowe, when is peak rut again? I missed the dates. Peak rut. Well, let's define peak rut. Peak rut means it's at the top of the peak. Pre-rut, come the top of the peak. The peak means it's about to fall off the other side, and it's about over. Meaning, majority of your does have come into heat and have been bred. Usually by the middle of November,
Likewise.
November 15th, 16th, 18th. That's peak rut. Anytime you see that big last chase, you know it's about over.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always right in the middle of November. And peak means it's a lot of your does have already been bred, and there's a few out there, and you get these big mature bucks and well, any buck, they're really, really trying to get that maybe second, third breed in. And that's when they'll leave their home parcel and go 2 miles. And you'll see them in the middle of the day, in the middle of a field. They are looking for that second or third breed. And that peak rut is usually around November 15th, 16th.
Every year.
Every year.
Yep.
So
I would say I would agree with that. I might, some years you may extend that to the 20th, 21st. I'm just saying from experience, you know.
well, I think a lot of that too, that extension would be, hey, it's cold. They're moving,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
as soon as it gets hot, you're not going to see, I mean, they're going to move at night, but they'll move in the day too, but not as much.
If there's anybody that's new to hunting that gets a chance to watch this, or that might be watching it now, to kind of add to that, you know, there's obviously different phases of the rut. And I know a lot of us, you know, focus on, you know, like Daryl was saying, like the peak rut and stuff like that. But as a hunter myself, the chasing pre-rut phase is when you're going to have them bucks first start chasing them does. And I think that's when they're the most active. Now, when Jason was talking about falling off the back end, you know, you're going to have bucks that's going to travel 2 or 3 miles to get, you know, that last doe bred or whatever.
Mhm.
That's when you start seeing bucks on camera or out of the stand that you've never seen before. You're like, I've never even seen this deer. Well,
Mhm.
somebody down the road's probably got thousands of pictures of him,
Mm-hmm.
but most of them does have already been bred, and he's looking for more. So I'm just kind of like explaining, you know, like I like the whole like chasing phase, like that whole pre-rut, you know, right there around Halloween, the very, very, very first part of November. I think
best
when the
time of the
action,
year.
yes, when action starts picking up, that's when
Best time
you,
of the year.
yes.
What lure is best to take inventory at your camera? Jim Churchman. I mean, a lot of guys like using a ridgetop buck and rut and a dripper. A lot of guys like using number 11, especially number 11 from here on out on a vine, on a licking branch, on a rope. Some guys run it through their dripper. That's a lot of power going through a dripper, and them bucks usually get pretty radical around a dripper full of number 11.
Mm-hmm.
They usually try to tear the dripper out of the tree 9 times out of 10. I know Landon Roberts, he likes using a ridgetop buck and rut. He actually, I wish I'd have showed you this. He's got a dripper with ridgetop buck and rut in a scrape, and this 3.5-year-old buck, what looked to me, literally bedded down in the middle of this scrape today. And he got pictures of it. And this buck is actually bedding, and he kept smelling around in that scrape, and he bedded right in the middle of that scrape
Really?
and fell asleep.
Wow.
Got him on camera.
Well,
And so that's pretty good inventory.
Yes,
But,
absolutely.
the power of the lure.
But yeah, number 11 got a lot of musk and glands, doe and heat in it. It's good. Dominant buck tarsal, mock scrape. I mean, about all of it, really.
Tarsal and 11 for me.
Yeah.
I agree.
Just answering the question.
Katie's got a good point here. Katie Sanders, going back to what Cody said earlier. Use doe and heat for this evening's hunt and had a spike coming straight under my stand. Going back to that adolescent, you know, teenage, you know, if them 2-year-old deer want whatever spikes, whatever, they get a whiff of that, like this time of year, it doesn't matter. Like I just brought it up because I think it's kind of funny because this young buck, yeah, he's
Right.
he's raring to go.
I want to say 2 things here. So with what Katie's experienced, and then, well, I'll talk about Katie here in a second, but, you know, this is the first time these guys have experienced this testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do with it.
Exactly
don't.
what I was thinking.
And
Yeah.
man, they're like,
It's new
hey,
to 'em.
And that's
Let
what
that
he's
go.
doing. He's like,
and you know, like I tell people all the time, I said that testosterone has to get so high in that buck, and then they identify what doe and heat is. But Katie, she's used our products for a very long time. I tease her all the time, tell her that she's the one that made us famous, and we're not famous. But anyhow, she's killed a lot of big deer with our doe and heat bow, muzzleloader, and shout out to Katie. I'm glad you're on here tonight. But yeah, she's been a customer of ours.
I've seen some of her pictures.
She's not a customer anymore. She gets it sent to. But anyhow, yeah, she's a killer when it comes to big deer. So I'm actually going to have a gallery on our page about her on our website. It's in the process of being made now. But anyhow, anything else you see there, Matt?
no problem to Jamie. He said, thanks, guys. Like getting different opinions and learning from others. Donald said, Jason, out of all the deer lures you sell, what is your favorite? How do you get the most luck out of it?
Small.
I don't know. I use all of it. I really do. But it all boils down to the time of year that I go in for the kill, which is usually Halloween. If I know where he's bedding and I'm a lot different than everybody else, I use the wind in my advantage. I use ozonic bag, and I really discipline myself when it comes to being scent free, body wash, and the whole 9 yards. Anyhow, so if it's peak pre-rut and I know where he's bedding and I'm hunting over his scrape and his rub branch that I've mocked and made for him, I will take ridgetop buck and rut with a buck grunt and spray it into his bedding on an evening hunt. And that's usually right before Halloween or right around Halloween. If it's right after that, in that window to where they still got a little bit of fight and they got a little bit of breed, and it's somewhere in that first week, first 10 days of November, I use 50-50. And I do a lot of spraying with it too. So
speaking on that, I kind of want to bring up something while you're discussing this, because I think it's a good learning tool. If I use a scent, and one thing I've noticed too is after talking to you down there at the shop, I never was a person that sprayed anything out of my stand, right? I always sprayed it on the ground or sprayed it on a little thing and just hung it up. I've noticed a big difference too. And if I take that bottle of whatever I'm using, ridgetop buck and rut, whatever, and I mist it into the air, it's actually more of a natural, like if it's floating through the woods and they catch a whiff of it, other than just that wick hanging there.
mm-hmm.
I have found that to be more realistic.
It is.
I think I've seen more like activity out of it, just spraying it in the air and just kind of letting it mist through the woods.
And I've been real reserved on, advertising it that way, because I don't want people to think, well, he just wants me to waste it.
Right.
But it don't take but a spray or two.
Exactly.
Just a spray or two every time you feel that wind pick up, because a lot of people don't realize we get into that pre-rut, peak pre-rut. We get in that first week of November, them bucks are checking wind and they hear that wind coming. And once they hear that and feel that wind coming, they're going to start checking. Well, if I'm spraying, it's going to go to them.
Right.
So.
Not a bottle at a time.
And you got to think about the stuff that it attaches to, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
In the woods. Now, let me add this. I will tell you this, and I haven't told you this. Last year, I took some old number 11, and I had my grandson with me, and I was standing on one side of a field, and the wind was blowing out of the west, which predominantly that's where we get all of our fronts from, west, northwest. He was standing on the other end of the field. I was on the west side, and he would have been on the east side of the field, 400 yards away. And I took a bottle of old number 11, 3 squirts in the air, and it took him 6.7 seconds to smell it 400 yards away. Mm-hmm. And it was a windy day that day. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, spraying it in the air.
Well, I've told the story many times. I was waiting on that right wind last year to kill that deer I killed, and it was the east wind. And I seen him 150 yards every time I hunted, getting back into his bed at 9 a.m. And then this time he was going to check some doe bedding, but I sprayed him in. It got his attention, and it went right. And it went right to him. And I finally got him at 78 yards, and I finally got him at 12 yards. So. But I had some help with some does, but it had everything to do with that smell being in the air.
Right.
Because biologists will say that them deer, them does, they let off this aroma, and which is what doe and heat is. It's got a sweet aroma to it, and they can smell it because it is airborne.
They say it's almost got like a vanilla type smell to it. I don't know if I agree with that, but I've heard that.
I don't think I agree with
it. I don't know about that.
When a doe,
I'm just giving you a hard time. I don't smell so vanilla.
Give that guy a Twinkie.
Okay.
Move on. Hey, Eric Berger.
That's a good question. I was going to bring that up too.
Eric Berger, when using a scent dripper, how long do you leave it up and refill it? Well, if you're in canopy with our drippers, I'm speaking for our dripper. If you're in canopy, you're not getting hardly any sunlight. They can last up to 6 weeks. And so you got this total scent bomb the whole time. And they can last up to 6+ weeks. If they're getting the morning sun and noon sun, they may only last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. If they're on a field edge getting all day long sun, they may last a week and a half, 2 weeks. So I wouldn't be so critical on hurrying up, getting in there to refill. I would be more apt to pay attention to, hey, I don't want to spook my herd. I'll do it when I go hunting.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
A quick fill up while you're walking to your stand. Or
Right.
something. Nope. Let's see here.
Daryl was asking when is peak run again. I think he meant peak rut. He missed the dates. I mean, that's dependent on where you are. Here in the Midwest, you're looking, like Jason said earlier, 15th to the 17th. I believe that's what he was saying.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
it always seems like you see a wild chase around the 10th. You know what?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I ain't calling that peak rut. I think that's just an abundance of does coming in at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, and a lot of it, they don't come in heat because of the weather, but their behavior of movement is weather oriented. It's all about, if it's cool out, man, like I said, they're packing these heavy fur coats around. I mean, they want to move when it's cool, and you get those good, cool, overcast days around November 10th, and it's 45 degrees. Man, you see deer everywhere.
Mm-hmm. That November the 6th through the 14th, 15th,
Mm-hmm.
it is a great time to be in the woods, and that is when you see most of your mature bucks on their feet. I mean, it can be crazy chaos in the woods, actually.
So that kind of goes into Josh Sheldon's question of favorite 2 days to hunt. I guess if you had 2 days, Cody, I'll start with you. If you had 2 days to hunt, which 2 days would they be?
my 2 days that I've always really enjoyed and had the most success out of was the 4th and the 5th. I guarantee Darren's is going to be different. Everybody's probably will be. Mine personally have been the 4th and the 5th.
Close. Mine would be probably, boy, that's a great question. 7th, 8th, 9th of November.
I'm big on Halloween. I love hunting. I love hunting on Halloween. I don't know what it is,
Do you
but
take candy with you?
yeah, sometimes I do. I take little Snickers and Reese cups.
Oh, yeah.
And I think if I had to pick 2 days, I mean, mine's not going to be back to back, but I love hunting on Halloween. And I mean, my other day is going to kind of carry over to what Cody and Darren said. It's that I'm just going to go with like any day from the 4th to the 10th or 4th to the 9th.
Yeah.
Just because to me, that's like that whole pre-rut peak, kind of like what I was talking about earlier. But one day has to be Halloween. I don't know what it is about Halloween. It's just, there's just something about Halloween. And then my next day would be the 4th or the 8th or 9th, probably.
Mine would be probably Halloween, because I'm really big on the peak pre-rut. And then after that, it'd probably be somewhere around the 3rd of November to the 6th. So, I can't really say a day, but I'm like Matt, I do like that Halloween. I want to say something right here. And Matt, you just patch it up after I gum all these questions up. But anyhow,
yeah.
When is the best time to use dominant buck tarsal? Dominant buck tarsal, use it anytime, all the time. The dominant buck tarsal, there's a tarsal gland back there in them hocks, which is really not driven by testosterone. The behavior of testosterone is the after effect of what that tarsal area turns into. It's all driven by testosterone to where, yeah, it is dominant buck tarsal. It is from a dominant buck, 5.5, 6.5-year-old buck. But it's not really got the oomph like the ridgetop buck and rut has, because I have added some glands and musk in that to give that extra drive that testosterone brings. So dominant buck tarsal, use it anytime, all the time. And it is very effective anytime, all the time. You can use it in summer on a dripper or a scrape during the summer or licking branch, whatever. But anyhow, dominant buck tarsal is good anytime. I have a lot of guys ask me too. They say, why do you put pee on a limb? Deer don't pee on limbs. And I say, deer don't know that they don't pee on limbs.
Mm-hmm.
people want to think that deer think like humans. Deer don't think like humans. Urine is a carrier of who they are. Urine is the byproduct of water. But when it runs through their kidneys, when it runs through all their body structure, it is who they are. So it's not like they're like, hey, why is this deer peeing in a tree? It's like, hey, I smell that deer up there, which is all transferred through all the glands at the top of the head. Not so much the preorbital gland. People, that is nothing more than that the whole preorbital gland deal, that is nothing but a market strategy that people's getting rich off of. The preorbital really doesn't have a smell. And a lot of people don't know that. But the market has taken that word and has made this big deal out of preorbital gland. If you watch a deer, he guides every movement off his eyes and ears.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's guiding that movement to work that licking branch or that rub, it's off of his eye movement. It's off of what he feels with his antlers and ears. So naturally, people see these deer work these branches with their eyes. Well, that's just all in how they are understanding what they're doing, where they're at. Their concentration is right on top of their head, where all these glands come together and make that oily, sappy communication. I know I've busted a lot of bubbles right there, but the preorbital gland is not as powerful as everybody, as the media and the marketing has made it.
I have a question. And going back to the tarsal,
Mm-hmm.
that smell never changes, does it?
Mm-mm. No, because that tarsal gland that's in there, it's actually encased.
I mean, when
It's not an open gland.
When their testosterone levels spike, that it always stays the same, right?
Well, yeah, it does, but when you got all the bacteria, you got all that urine and all the glands that's coming off the back of their hocks, the oils and everything, it all kind of goes in that direction. There's glands in the back of their hocks. I mean, if you ever butcher your own deer, you open up that big muscle in the back, and how many glands do you find in there? You know, there's a lot going on in there.
Mm-hmm.
But the tarsal itself, the reason it starts smelling bucky is because of the urine that they put on it, the testosterone that they're giving off. So, but to have an actual gland in there that's open, kind of like the other glands that they have, it's not so much.
I didn't think so. I was just curious.
All right, I want to get off track. Matt, you got anything else?
Yeah, I'm going through them trying to decipher them. And I appreciate everybody's questions tonight, because this has been an awesome show.
Absolutely.
I don't know how Jason feels about it, but we might have to have a round 2 coming up. But I think it's great. I think this is a great place to come and learn and talk about it and stuff like that. So, let's see. Some of these we've hit on already. Do you believe in grunting early season? Myself, I've grown several bucks inside early bow season to bow range. I think personally you can overdo it.
It doesn't hurt.
I don't think it hurts
anyway. And they're gonna do that any time of the year. That's how they communicate. Just don't overdo it.
This is just my opinion again, but I think deer are a lot different than any other animals that we hunt using calls. I know wild turkeys, ducks, we use calls to kind of like call them in, right? I mean, deer are kind of the same way, but it's more of a communication tool than it is, here, deer, come here, that type of stuff. So I think if at this time of the year, if you're just sitting in a stand and you're just blowing the end out of a grunt call, I mean, deer's going to be like, are you serious? Like, I'm not listening to that. Now, just a few soft grunts, maybe one evening during a hunt, then that's fine. Or like when the peak pre-rut starts picking up, you can be a little bit more vocal with fawn bleat and buck grunt, stuff like that. But deer, in my opinion, are a little bit different than some of the other creatures that we hunt, just because, they're not as subject to come to you if you're just going to blow the end out of a grunt call. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Since you've been doing research and trying to get food plots in this year, how small is a food plot not worth the effort? not really any info out there that says, i.e., you need or 1-2 acre to make it worth it and last the season. I mean, I'm just not big on food plots. Cody's killed some really nice big bucks off food plots. I like natural habitat. I'm more of a gland, urine, rub, scrape, lick and vine, branch, rope kind of guy. Now I did put in a little bitty plot, not even a quarter acre, but it's where I put it. I put it between buck bedding, travel, and destinational food or destinational doe bedding when bucks are traveling between the two. And so far, I haven't had any does on it, maybe 1 or 2, but I have bucks on it almost every day because bucks bed in that area. So if you're just using it to kill deer off of, that's not a good idea because you end up spooking your herd more than you do harvesting your herd. Cody, you have any information on that?
Yeah, I don't really think there's a size that you need to base it off of. I wouldn't go too small, obviously, because if you do have something the deer like and you got a high density of deer in that area, they're just going to wipe it out. I mean, as soon as it starts growing, they're going to wipe it out, and then you just wasted all that time, money, and effort. Me personally, and this is just my personal experience from all the ground that I've got, the smallest size I have is probably 1/2 acre, give or take. I try to look at how many deer I have in an area. Obviously, I mean, this is a long subject. We can talk about this multiple different ways and for a long time. But if you're just putting in food plots, I know a lot of guys, they'll put them in on log roads. That's just to get a deer maybe just come through, stop long enough to get a shot at. They're not really there to keep deer on the property because they're just a little narrow road, so there's not going to be a whole lot of food for them. They might just stop, nibble, and keep on going. I don't know. It varies. I mean, if you enjoy doing it, keep doing it.
Exactly.
If you're doing it to really increase your chances of killing a deer, I wouldn't go less than 1/2 acre if it was me. I mean, I want to make the most out of my food plots when I do them. So therefore, I don't go small. This subject itself could go a long way. I mean, there's a lot to talk about.
It's like you said too. If you only own 1, 2, 3 acres, go by all means do it. But it's like Cody said, if it's a small plot, chances are, depending on what you grow in that plot, it could be eaten up before. Depending on the weather, if it's dry, it could be eaten up before season even starts,
Also, too, you got to take in consideration because you got to put the two pieces of the puzzle together because you got Jason's aspect of it and you got Cody's aspect of it. I mean, if you have a ton of natural browse that they're used to eating year round and you plant an acre food plot next to that natural browse, then you got to figure out, okay, like I said, this is like Cody said, this is a rabbit hole you could go down.
Oh, yeah.
We could talk about for a week. But if you've got a food plot here of whatever, then you've got 4 acres of natural browse that these deer used to eat all the time. They're going to want a little bit something different, but then yet again, they're used to the natural browse. So then you don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on 4-acre food plot, or in a situation you want to spend money on 4-acre food plot, then you've got 200 acres of bean and corns next to you that, it's just, there's a lot of variables that go into food plots. Now, like Cody said, I'm the type of guy that I'll go out and plant a food plot just because I get with the property owner and he gets his tractor out and he discs it up and we plant it. And
that's,
we just try to see what grows and what don't grow. And,
that's a good point. It changes the deer's smorgasbord.
Yes.
If they're used to, like you said, natural browse and they see something over there, well, let's go try this.
Right.
They're going to eat it up pretty quick.
Yeah.
Normally.
So yeah, it's definitely a rabbit hole. We could go way down.
I don't know if that
deep.
answers your question, but
what I would say is
plant it.
You need 1 to 2 acres to make it worth and last for a season. I agree with everybody sitting at this table.
It just depends on how many does you got.
Yep.
That's true.
Biggest
factor.
That's true.
So
goes back to a learning curve, man.
Oh yeah.
Because they're going to be the first ones to hit it.
Yep.
Tim Petty says, is your 50-50 good to use in 8-ounce dripper? Yes, 50-50 is good to use. I always tell guys, deer don't smell in formulas, they smell in layers. So they smell the heat and the dominant buck. So yes, it's very good. You got both urines giving the communication there. I've seen another one down here. How many sprays is it ever too many, too much? If it's a constant windy day, you don't want to spray every time the wind blows, but every time I feel the wind pick up or hear it coming, I like to give a couple of sprays. I set my tree stand one time and I forget there's like 400 and something sprays in a 4-ounce. I forget. I guess I need to do the math again. I must have been bored that
Did
night.
you do that?
Yes, I did.
Got a lot
But
of
anyhow,
time on it.
That's awesome.
But anyhow, it goes a long ways. But it's just like that buck I killed in 2020. I knew where he bedded. I knew he was close. I knew the wind was blowing to his bed. At 4:30, I started spraying. I had a 4-ounce bottle of Rich Top Buck and Rut. I sprayed probably 10 or 15 sprays, grunted twice with our buck grunt, and then I done it again at like 4:38. I mean, I sprayed hot and heavy because I knew he was bedding up there. I grunted 2 or 3 times, put it all up, and he was dead at 4:44. And I didn't use 2 ounces, or an ounce rather, or a half ounce as far as that goes probably. So I don't know, I mean, when it starts getting in your pocketbook, that means you're spraying too much.
I will say though, that amazes me at the research and development of Van Meter Sun lures to spray and know how many sprays is coming out. I'm proud of you, but
well, I had a buck and I ended up killing him 2 days later. I knew where he was bedding and it was in peak rut and he was still coming in there. It was actually the 18th. He was still coming in there to bed because doe bedding was on the other side. And I knew he was in there. And that night I thought, I'm going to give him the whole 4 ounces. And I thought, well, while I'm doing it, I'm going to count, see how many's in it.
I got you.
But I ended up killing him like two evenings later. I ended up killing him with about a 1/4 ounce. So I wasted 4 ounces 2 nights before. But what scent would you recommend in a dripper on a tree line of a food plot? Man.
Going into a rabbit hole again.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I will tell guys, spray your number 11 in your mock scrape, spray your number 11 on the branch, licking branch, vine or rope, and then run whatever you want, whether it be 50-50, that'd be good. It's buck and doe. Dominant buck tarsal's good. Doe and heat's good. I mean, but I would probably go with the 50-50 because you got both. So that's just my opinion.
Jordan's got a good question. My property is extremely hard to hunt. It's mainly a huge cedar thicket. Big deer are there, but I'm not sure how to hunt it properly as there are only a couple trees for stands. Cedar thickets are rough. I mean, awesome deer habitat, but man, they can be hard to hunt. They can be very hard to hunt. I've
had two questions about applying product to a doe decoy. I'm not a decoy hunter, so I can't really answer this properly. But if I was going to mock a doe visually, I would definitely mock a buck through lure and grunting. I mean, competition's everything.
Yeah.
I mean, competition has a lot to do with it. And Cody and Darren can add or take away to this, but I would almost, if you got 50-50, you got both. You got doe and heat and dominant buck tarsal. But I would definitely try to mock that buck too, if that makes sense to you guys. And you like I said, you guys can add or take away to that.
We're answering Jordan's question, right?
That was Rusty. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'll go. We'll go back to the cedar thicket and how you guys.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good because I actually did see that question earlier and I forgot to ask it.
I
But
thought we were still on that.
No, but so it decoy doe hunting or decoy buck hunting, and what type of scent would you use with that decoy?
Okay. Sorry.
I personally never used a decoy. I always like to get in and kind of be quiet as possible. I don't like setting up a whole bunch of stuff. I've always wanted to try it. I just never have. But like Jason said, if I did ever decide to go that route, depending on what decoy I used, whether it be a buck or a doe, I'm going to use the scent for that deer. I mean, I would probably lean more towards a doe decoy, and I would use the 50-50. Yeah, I mean, and I guess it depends on what time of year you would want to be using that too. But that's just me. I've never used a decoy. That's just how I would approach it if I did. I don't think I would go.
I've used decoys. I've got doe decoys and buck decoys, and I've harvested bucks off of both. And I would use, if I'm using a buck decoy, tarsal, ridgetop buck and rut. And, you know, if I'm using a doe, just take the antlers off of it. It looks like a doe. You know, use doe in heat, depending on what time of the year it is, or old number 11 on the doe decoy.
Good answer.
If your property's 90% cedar thickets, how would you hunt it?
I would cut a trail right down the middle of it,
Absolutely.
6 foot wide.
Make your own
if
trail.
You can.
Yeah, if you wait a minute.
If you can.
Don't go to jail.
Right.
But yeah, I would
Check with your property owner.
I would manipulate that. I do that with a lot of my my overgrown fields. You know, fields that once was a power line. I always let Duke Energy know I'll take care of that. So don't cut it, don't spray it, and then I will once that thick stuff gets up so high, whether it be briars or honeysuckles or ironweed or whatever, I'll take a brush hog right through it, and them deer will take right up on it every time.
Mm-hmm.
Bring them right to my tree stand.
Yep.
So
Deer's like a human being. They'll take the path.
Least resistance
mhm.
Yes,
every time.
And I tell you what, I've seen them big tripod stands. You guys seen them?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't have a spot for them, but if I did, it'd be a spot like that. And I'd erect that dude in the middle of the summer and get up there where I can see above all them cedars. And I would cut trails that intersect just to bring them.
Right
Yeah.
to that point.
Mhm.
Right
Yeah.
to that
Just
spot.
like you said, they're gonna walk them through.
They would.
Would you advise rattling with ridgetop?
Yeah, but I like the buck grunt with ridgetop buck and rut. When I was formulating that several years ago, I had an idea of what I thought it would do just because I knew what was in it. And I was going out during chase, 1st of November, and bucks would be chasing does, and I would spray that, and they would smell it, and then I would grunt. And this is no joke. While I was testing that year, I didn't even kill a deer that year because I was testing lures more than anything. These deer, and they was all like 2.5, 3.5-year-old deer, but they would literally stop where they were at, stop chasing the doe, and make a scrape and a rub on anything they could find. And that was with ridgetop buck and rut with a buck grunt. So, but yeah, I'm sure you could rattle with that, no doubt.
Josh Schultz, his question kind of mimics Josh Sheldon's, but it's a little bit different. Let's hear what 1 week of the season each guy would pick if you only get one. A lot of guys take 1 week a year. I'm assuming, vacation, because we all first week of November. Cody.
I took off about the whole month in November.
There you go.
So,
Yeah, Cody's taking a whole month.
if I had 1 week to pick, 4th through the 11th this year. So it'd be end of the first week going into the second.
Yep.
Yeah, same here.
I'm with Cody.
I'm self-employed, and I'm after the 22nd, I'm in the woods every day. My wife becomes a widow anyway, so
There you go.
but I agree with both these guys. It would be 3rd through the 10th, 4th through the 11th. It's a must to me.
My employer knows January 1. what time that's going to be putting in vacation time.
All right, I got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Number one choice. If you only had one tool to use to enhance your location, what would it be? One thing. I mean, you got your archery set up, you got your tree stand, but one thing to enhance your spot, what would it be? And you could answer, and I could ask that for early October, mid-October, late October, 1st November. But if you had one tool to use, one thing to use at your area, And it could be natural resources, be anything. What be cameras, whatever. What would it be?
Just one.
Just one.
Golly.
I can answer it real quick.
If it was a natural resource, I'd say a big old nasty thicket.
Natural.
No, I mean, it could be cameras. It could be anything. It could be a white oak flat.
You're just. It would be a thicket for me too if I only had some kind of honeysuckle thicket or
I've
briar,
got
whatever.
an answer. Scent.
Scent.
And the reason for that is I think a mature buck's nose is the hardest thing to beat.
They're all good
So
answers.
I'll take scent.
They're all good.
What's
answers.
yours, Jason?
Mine is water.
Water?
Mm-hmm. It really is. But my situation, how I plant my water hose makes them very powerful because they're in the middle of nowhere where there's no water. So if I had to kill a deer and if I wanted one tool, no scents, no mock scrapes, no nothing, but you allow me to have one thing, no cameras, no lure,
No calls.
no calls, it would be a 6x6 water hole, 3.5, 4 foot deep.
See, I got 2 farm ponds. So
That's
But-
a great question.
But I'm just saying
it
you know,
is. And I think,
you know,
yeah.
if I just had one tool to use, one thing other than my equipment of harvest, it would be a water hoe. But I can put that water hoe anywhere I want, just like I can that food plot, that camera, or whatever, you know.
So let me ask you this. There's a pond, small pond in the cattle pasture. And then there is a bigger pond on the neighbor's property. Would you manipulate and put another water source on your property if you only had the one?
Yeah,
Or-
because I'd want my water hoe where there's 100% cover, right in the middle of cover, not in the middle of a field, not the edge of a field, but in cover.
See that this pond is like half wrapped with woods. The rest of it's out open to cattle pasture.
So back to their choice, my water hoe is in the middle of the thicket.
Mhm.
Okay.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm learning something.
My
So
thicket has got a water hole.
There you go.
yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. I just wanted to learn something there. You know,
All
like
right.
Awesome question.
going back to what we talked about discussing earlier, you know, a lot of us are all, you know, food plot, but like Jason said, I mean, you could make your property just as good by digging a hole and putting a water trough in it and changing it that way, you know.
I like James Lucas' comment. Bucket of water.
Bucket of water.
Mhm.
Using military refuge tag, November 12th would be a good time to spray ridge top in the air. Using the military, no, getting that close to peak rut, I would spray straight doe and heat in the air.
Mhm.
By the 12th, good chance they've done bred a doe or two, maybe looking for the second or third, and put that doe and heat in the air. I like doe and heat during rut, especially any time after the 10th. I like straight doe and heat. And follow that doe and heat. I like to follow that doe and heat up with a doe bleat, just a small, short bleat, not the ball, but the bleat. Ball is more distress. So, and you know, them does, and I know you guys have watched them too. When they're really calm and when they're really social, they just give them little meh,
Mhm.
meh. I mean, you'll see it when they're eating. I mean, you'll hear it when they're eating. But when you put that real calm, soft bleat, that meh, meh, with doe and heat, that is giving a signal that I'm ready to stand.
Mhm. That's what it's about.
I'm ready to stand. And, you know, so you got the smell in the air, you got the sound in the air. And, I mean, guys, when them does are ready to stand, they're not, meh, meh, you know,
Right.
grunting and carrying on. It's just that real soft little bleat. And it almost sounds like sometimes it comes out their nose even.
Mhm.
And it's just real faint. And that is just a social call. She's calm. And put that with some doe and heat around the 12th of November. That's a standing, ready to breed
I
doe.
guarantee you've just educated several people on that? What that
Well,
comment?
I mean, that's just how they do it. It's how they talk. I
Mhm.
mean, that's what it is. And, that can call it come out many, many years ago. I think Primos brought it out, and, Will Primos, one of the greatest legends ever, but I think they should have taught everybody how to use it. And maybe they didn't know how back then, because I used it that way. I just, meh, meh.
Oh yeah.
And that's just a distress. And, go out in the middle of summer and do that, you'll have big mama does coming in checking you out. But anyhow, so just that real small, short bleat, and it gives that social call. I'm ready to stand. So, any others? Let's see here.
I do want to thank everybody though for chiming in tonight. It's been a great
It's
show.
probably, what time is it?
It's 6 after 9.
9:06. Wow, it went quick. Well, any other questions out there?
I've not seen any that we've not
Any other
covered.
questions?
I think we might definitely do this again. I think it's been a great show, very, very educational. And make sure that you go to VanMeterandSonLures.com, order your scent. Jason's got a lot of other things on there. All these episodes are on there. There's vlogs and stuff on there too. There's all kinds of stuff on there. So make sure you go check out VanMeterandSonLures.com.
Yeah.
And so it has nothing to do with weather. However, cool weather does enhance movement for breeding, but it's all about that photo period of when they come into heat, and weather is just not reliable enough.
And you talk about weather too, like during the rut, you always hear the cliche, well, it's 75 degrees outside. I hope this doesn't affect the rut. Do I think it affects the rut? No. But I think you will see more breeding going on of a night during the rut, peak rut, than you would during the day, with warmer temperatures. And we experienced that, I think, I think in 2020 or 2021, one of the bucks that I was after that year, I ended up harvesting him, but I only saw him like 3 times because most of the rut activity was going on then, when we were in bed.
Well, just like everybody gets all tore up about that moon, and Josh was saying, about the moon there, we do have a full moon coming up, and I don't care if it's red, green, yellow, pink, blue.
It's 28.
It don't matter to me what it is. This red moon coming up, guys, don't get all tore up about that. The red moon, the full moon, it will affect behavior, but a lot of times it just affects when they feed and how much they eat, and then their feeding behaviors get all messed up. Because I remember when I was a kid, I had an old timer, Gail Manship was his name, and he'd always tell me, he said, Jason, you see that full moon in the middle of the day, straight up in the air, they're going to be eating at 12 and 1 o'clock. And I didn't know why, but he was right. Well, here's why. The night before, they'd eat all stinking night because it was a full moon. They bed about half the morning and digest this stuff and think, wait a minute, I got to get up. It's time to eat again.
Right.
So here they are at noon or 1 o'clock eating, and it's always after that full moon, whether it's red, pink, blue, or yellow.
Right.
And what does
No
that
matter
do?
what color.
It
No.
changes their movement.
Exactly. Changes their behavior, their movement. And I can't even see what's on the screen now, but I always say it like this: middle of the day, lesser movement; middle of the night, lesser movement. You throw that moon in there, and they've been social and eat all night long because of that moon, that full moon, it's going to mess all that up. So You throw a full moon in there, you're going to see some more movement during the middle of the day and more movement during the middle of the night. So
There you go, Keaton Durbin. Hats off to you.
Ordered a new dripper combo and hung it less than 24 hours.
Wow.
I
Everybody,
appreciate
and everybody thinks Amazon's great.
Van meter's better, right?
Fan meter's better.
Hey, as long as the post office do their job.
Exactly.
Because I do mine.
Right.
Everybody has asked me, when's it going to be sent? I'm going to tell you guys, listen to me. If you order that product before noon or 2 o'clock, more than likely it's going to be sent out by 4 o'clock that same day.
Same day.
If you order it after 3 o'clock, I will not have time to get to the post office, so it'll go out the next morning. Now everybody's going to flood me tomorrow at noon.
Flood you, yeah. Marty's got a good question before we jump off here, though. Speaking of doe standing, do you ever choose a stand location during the rut that pinches down where bucks push does to corral them until they stand?
You know, man, I don't know, guys.
I've made a spur of the moment move during the peak of the rut. I'm not going to get into the whole detail, but I did one year. I made a last minute decision. It's been quite a few years ago, and I made a movement into an area that he's speaking of, and it paid off. And the only reason why I was able to do that was because it was, it was during the peak of the rut, free for all out in the woods. I mean, how many times have you seen a mature buck walk 10 feet from your car following a doe? You see it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the only reason that I was allowed to get in there at that time.
And I hope this makes sense. I'm going to try to make it make sense. But you always hear that little cliche about, them bucks will corner them into a little thicket or put them into a little area and they'll push them here. Really, it's the doe's world. The buck is just walking in it. He has a lot of times when it finally comes to, I'm going to stand, it may be in my backyard next to the swimming pool.
Mm.
It may be,
It's true.
It may be in that little thicket next to Walmart down there in Corden. It's just wherever she stops to finally says, I'm ready to stand.
That's where it's going to happen.
And that's where it's going to happen. And so ironically, it does happen in odd places. So what do? We see and recognize that odd place, and we automatically have this humanistic mindset. Oh, these bucks, they always push them into these little places. No, that's just where it ended up happening 9 times out of 10. Because just think about it. I mean, many of those happens in woodlots and big thickets where you never see that. But like Darren was saying, it'll happen right there in front of you, middle of daylight, so
Wherever she wants it to happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Do you guys have anything else for tonight's show?
I don't guess.
This is yours, Jason.
If you got a question.
I'm just a lucky guy gets to produce it. So
If you got a question, get in there. Oh, do you ever come look at properties and give pointers? Sheesh.
yep.
Yeah. Oh, we do.
You do. You do.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I do sometimes, but it's nothing that I advertise. So it'd have to be sometime during the winter months for sure. That's the only time I get in the woods and scout that kind of stuff. It's just like I had a guy just saying, a buddy of mine telling me today, he said, yeah, so-and-so, they said, yeah, we went scouting all day Saturday, didn't see any sign. He's like, we ain't gonna see nothing now. Scout during the winter, scout during
That's
January,
the best thing
February,
about
and
shed
March.
hunting. Whether you're a shed hunter or not, go shed hunting.
Scout.
Just because it's a good time to scout.
Best
It
time
is.
to scout.
It is. And these deer do the same thing every year unless you're in there pushing them around.
And the reason why is all the foliage is dead. You can see the path. You
yeah.
can see where they're traveling from. Everything is so
Things stand out better.
yeah,
and,
it stands out better. Exactly.
Unless you're a trapper, then you can really find that stuff a lot easier too.
Right, exactly.
Well, there you go. Hey, we may do a trapping, Cody,
Okay.
and we can get Ryan to.
Yeah.
Can't you get him
We
in
can
there?
zoom in. Yep.
So probably this winter we'll do a
We can do
trapping
some
podcast.
trapping ones.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, shoot.
So
All right,
right.
then. Thanks for everybody for watching. Make sure you go to VanMetersonLures.com. Check out Jason's new website. Thanks, Darren, Cody, and Jason for allowing me to do this. I'm just a very, very small portion of this, but
Good job, Matt.
appreciate it, Matt.
thank you. And I don't know, like I said, keep an eye on all the social media pages, and we'll announce again when the next show will be. You don't have a date yet, do you, Jason?
Not really.
Okay,
Just
that's fine.
I'm kind of
we kind of
letting the deer in the weather.
we kind of fly by the seat of our pants because it's actually hunting season. So
We may end up doing again next Tuesday night. If these guys here are on something, we're not. If, I'll probably be waiting a little bit closer to Halloween. If Caleb, if you're watching, I may have to go kill his deer.
There you go.
If he don't have time. No, I wouldn't do that to him. But anyhow.
But yeah, we'll keep an eye on the social media pages and we'll get it posted out there. So thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you on the next episode.